Welcome to the 2025 Acura ADX, the brand's smallest, newest, and most affordable SUV in its lineup. It shares a platform with the Acura Integra, but is based primarily on the Honda HR-V, which raises a few interesting questions, chief among which being, well, is this just an overpriced HR-V, or is it a worthy addition to the very hot, very popular compact luxury premium SUV segment? Well, let's get into it. Well, speaking of pricing, that's probably as good of a place to start as any. A base 2025 Acura ADX will set you back no less than $36,350. The base ADX starts at $9,500 more than the base HR-V. Kind of relevant because in terms of features and all that other kind of good stuff, the base ADX is definitely closer to a top line loaded out HR-V, and that shrinks the difference to around $3,900. So another question arises, base Acura ADX or loaded Honda HR-V? Well, I really do think the powertrain and overall refinement of the Acura makes a big difference in this decision-making process. But if you're really, truly just after feature set, I painstakingly compared the two feature trim breakdowns of both cars. And as it turns out, the only major feature the base, no options added ADX has over the maxed out HR-V is Google built-in and rear AC vents. Meanwhile, the HR-V has an extra inch of front headroom, parking sensors in the front and rear, remote start, auto up-down passenger windows, and curiously, it has leather seats as opposed to standard leatherette on the ADX. Headline-wise, both cars share a mostly identical active safety suite, a 9-inch touch infotainment screen with wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, an 8-speaker sound system, wireless charge pad, heated seats, leather-wrapped steering wheel, and a moonroof. But the overwhelmingly biggest change here is definitely the powertrain. The ADX thankfully does away with the HR-V's super wheezy 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder in place of the Integra's 1.5-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. So we're up a turbo, which means we're definitely up some power. No matter the trim you get, the only option is this powertrain with this power configuration. So we're working with 190 horsepower and 179 pounds-feet of torque, and that is not a lot, but it is 32 horsepower and 41 torques up over the Honda. And let me tell you, that Honda really needs a heart transplant, 100%. Unfortunately, this does retain the HR-V's continuously variable transmission, but really given the Integra platform, not really a surprise, the Integra has one too. But it is an improvement overall in performance. Not a huge one, it's still pretty slow. It's not dangerously slow as many of us have labeled the HR-V, but there's a definite delay and it doesn't really gather speed as much as you might expect something of this price or brand to do. Even in the sport shifting mode, the transmission mode here is not quite as aggressive as I would like. Now, this is, of course, not a performance-oriented vehicle in the slightest, but it's something to keep in mind, especially if you plan on loading this thing up with a bunch of people. You're going to feel the weight, definitely. There is still that harsh one-note CVT drone when you really get in it, but Acura has clearly added a fair bit of sound deadening to the ADX to kind of differentiate itself from its other CVT products, kind of elevate it to a more premium experience befitting the Acura badge. You know, that is really the biggest thing to keep in mind here with the ADX. For the most part, a lot of what you're going to get with Acura, specifically with the ADX, I would say, is you're getting a lot of intangibles. So it's much more refined than any Honda that I've driven as of late. It's got better sound deadening. I do like the tuning of the throttle pedal, the brake pedal. Steering is decently weighted for the most part. Overall, the ride is really refined for the segment. This is one of the better riding vehicles of this size even that I've driven in quite a while. And it's quiet in here at cruising speed. This is a loaded out example. This is a pretty significant step up over the $36,000 base vehicle. But I would say this feels worth the money. You're not going to be disappointed. Now, new powertrain also means new fuel economy, if only just barely. The current Honda HR-V, front-wheel drive HR-V, is rated to 26 miles per gallon city, 32 miles per gallon highway, and 28 miles per gallon combined, which is the same as the front-wheel drive ADX, except for the Honda is a little bit better with 1 extra miles per gallon on the highway. But the all-wheel drive ratings, identical for both vehicles. 25 miles per gallon city, 30 miles per gallon highway, and 27 miles per gallon combined. You know, not bad, but these figures are really not all that impressive either. I will say the ADX gets a pass for all that extra power and performance, so really less of an issue here. So the big question, base Acura ADX or loaded Honda HR-V? Well, if I'm shopping pragmatically between the two vehicles, and I'll be honest, I don't really think a lot of consumers are going to do that, and all I could afford was the base ADX, I would probably stick with the loaded HR-V, or really what I would really do is try to really push to get to the mid-level trim of the ADX. And that's not because the Honda is just that good or that bad, it's because this is a premium vehicle, and I want my premium vehicle to feel premium. This loaded out a-spec Advanced, sure, it definitely does, but I think you can get a lot of the same feature set and refinement in the mid-level normal a-spec, and that is the trim that I would go for. But for the most part, good stuff. I think it's a pretty solid addition to the segment overall. A great addition, though, to the Acura lineup. I think it's going to bring a whole lot of new buyers to the Acura brand, and that is, of course, the whole goal of this exercise. I'm absolutely looking forward to future iterations of the ADX. Maybe a high-performance Type X? Maybe. Well, until then, until we know more, for my full thoughts and reviews, you can go to Cars.com/news.